Welcome back, everybody, into GM's territory. I'm Trey Bowden. He's Jim Bowden, and we're just going to jump right into it. Jim, the Mets and Freddy Peralta have been in talks about a possible contract extension. What I've heard is that, he wants up to 7, 8 years. Mets are kind of thinking 4 or 5. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I think that's an accurate take, Trey. And look, I've done a lot of homework this week on GM territory in terms of what does a contract supposed to look like for Freddy Peralta. And I came up with 4 very important comparables that you can see on the graphic here. I think these are the most pertinent contracts for a possible deal with Peralta, who is a free agent at the end of this year. So Max Fried got 8 years, $218 million. Dylan Cease got 7 years, $210 million. Aaron Nola got 7 years, $172 million. And Carlos Rodon got 6 years, $162. Now, keep in mind, Freddy Peralta is only 29 years old. He's going to turn 30 on June 4. So he's extremely young like Dylan Cease. And I think when he gets to free agency, I think 7 years is probably where it's going to fall, and it's going to be around $200 million. And I think that's what it's going to take. So I think if the Mets were to sign him now, maybe they get a 6-year extension, but I think more likely they're going to pass on Peralta for now. They're going to let him get to free agency. And then I think his value is 7 years. Remember, Tarik Skubal is going to be a free agent too. And I get the feeling that the Mets are going to probably want to make a run at Skubal ahead of Peralta. And I don't think they're going to be able to sign 2. And remember, the president, David Stearns, doesn't like these long-term deals. But if I had to guess what he'll get in free agency a year from now, I'm going to go around 7 years, $200 million.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And you just mentioned Tarik Skubal. I want to talk about Skubal a little bit right now. He kind of wants to keep pitching. He was lights out in his first outing, and I think the emotions and with everything with the fans and representing the country, he wants to give it another go. So I know some talks are being had right now about him continuing to pitch. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so Ken Rosenthal of Fox and obviously Foul Territory interviewed him during the game, and Skubal left the door open of possibly continuing to pitch. Now, I don't think he understood the magnitude of the game that he was pitching in, representing the United States of America. And I think when he got there and he saw the packed house and the crowd, and he saw Paul Skeens as a teammate, and Aaron Judge, and Bryce Harper, and Alex Bregman, and future Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw, and all of a sudden the camaraderie with these guys, and understanding how special and what a privilege and an honor it is to represent the United States of America, I don't think he really comprehended what he was getting into. And I think, it was emotional for him, and I think he's now open to possibly pitching more. Now, he said he's going to talk to his wife and family. He's going to talk to his agent, Scott Boras, and he's going to talk to the Tigers and then make a decision if he's going to pitch again. My gut feeling says, Trey, that he's going to pitch again. I think he loved it. And look, what's the difference if he makes his next start for the Tigers in Lakeland, Florida, or if he makes it for the USA in Miami? I don't think there's that much of a difference for him to get ready for opening day. I don't think it stops the process. So my gut says he pitches again, and I hope that's the case. It would be best for the USA team. And I think it's best for him to experience that. Remember, he didn't pitch great against Seattle in the playoff game, and this feels like a playoff or World Series game. And having the experience and pitching in a game of this magnitude again, I think it would be a good thing for Tarik Skubal.
Yeah, you mentioned the electric atmosphere. Everything has been electric about this World Baseball Classic. And I do want to mention all of the World Baseball Classic coverage is brought to you by our friends at Fox One, which is now live. Stream all your Fox favorites together in one place, including all World Baseball Classic games over the next few weeks. And after that, the best MLB action all season long. From the World Baseball Classic through the World Series to the World Cup to NASCAR and IndyCar, with Fox One, you get it all live. Start your 7-day free trial today. Offers are subject to change. Download Fox One today and stream the World Baseball Classic live. Go to fox1.com for complete terms and conditions. Fox One, streaming now. So Tarik Skubal has said he hasn't even been made an offer yet. How can that be?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to translate it here on GM territory, what that really means, okay? So back in October, the Detroit Tigers offered Skubal a 4-year deal at around $100 million. That was the conversation that they had. And his agent, Scott Boras, came out publicly and said, basically, they're $250 to $300 million apart. And everyone just sat there absolutely stunned. So that's what we know publicly. They talked in range. They may not have made an official offer, but they talked in range. So then they went to work on a one-year deal, and the Tigers offered $19.6 million, and the player asked for $31 million. And so there was no movement, no negotiating between the two numbers. The case went to salary arbitration, and Tarik Skubal got $31 million as expected. After winning 2 Cy Young awards, he should be the highest paid player in the 5 class. So that was totally mishandled by the Tigers. But the fact that Tarik said they haven't made an offer, well, they kind of gave a range of 4 years, $100 million, which wasn't even close. It wasn't even in the ballpark of what he's worth. So once they found out that he's looking between $400 and $500 million, obviously the Tigers have said, that's too much money. We're not going to play in that range, at least for now. So they went out and they signed Framber Valdez to that 3-year deal with an opt-out after year 2. And so if Skubal walks as a free agent, Valdez replaces him at the top of the rotation. So, it's been very interesting how the Tigers have handled Skubal. I don't quite completely understand it, but I think one thing is clear. The only reason he doesn't have an official offer is because they don't want to pay in the range they know it's going to take. And by the way, just to be clear, if I were them, I would offer an 8-year deal at $50 million a year. That's $400 million. And I would make the player and the agent turn that down. And if they turned it down, I would tell my fan base, I offered him 8 years, $400 million. Because he's the one player you have to sign if you're Detroit. That's the face of your franchise. He's the best pitcher right now on planet Earth. He's won 2 Cy Youngs in a row. And we see Kyle Tucker got 4 years at $60 million. Right? Dylan Cease got $210 million. What do you think he's going to get? We've already seen short-term deals in the past for guys like Max Scherzer for over $40 million. So, look, I think it's realistic he gets 50 a year. So 50 times 8, that's 400. Finished his career as a Tiger. I think that's what they should offer.
We had a big-time injury with Hunter Greene. He is right now shut down after some right elbow discomfort. Now, look, I don't want the Cincinnati Reds fans to start freaking out. This team is going to be A-okay. They still have Rhett Lauder, Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo, Brady Singer, Chase Burns. Like, they still got the arms where they're going to be okay. Now, it might be a bigger problem if, it comes to a season-long injury with Hunter Greene. But for now, I don't think there's any reason to panic. He's going to get a second opinion out in California. He seems to think that there's no UCL damage. So all of those signs are good, but the Reds are going to be fine.
Yeah, and I think, Trey, what we're talking about is bone spurs in the elbow. And as long as the bone spurs aren't going into the ligament, that's a surgery that would put him out for months, but it wouldn't put him out for the year. And so, look, I think the Reds need him. I think he's the ace of the staff. And in fact, if he was healthy, I think he's a top 5 Cy Young candidate in the National League. That's how much I like him. So it is a huge setback, but I like your point. They've got 5 starters deep, even without him. They're going to need Chase Burns and Rhett Lauder, the young rookies, to step up and deliver. Command and control is going to be the key for both. But boy, that rotation at the top, even without Greene, is strong. As you mentioned, those 2 lefties, Lodolo and Abbott, and how steady Brady Singer is.
Absolutely. We had another big injury as well with Pena fracturing his right ring finger. As a hitter, that's got to be pretty tough. Jim, what have you heard about this injury?
Yeah, so Jeremy Pena, it was one of their best players at over 300 last year, 17 homers, 20 steals. Look, he might not be ready by opening day, but if he's not, they're fine because all they need to do is move Carlos Correa from third base to shortstop and put Isaac Paredes at third base, which is his position. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of people that wanted Paredes traded. It's offseason because he's really their 5th infielder. But you know what I've said the entire time? Don't do it. There'll be injuries. Look at the age on the right side of their infield. Both first baseman Christian Walker and Jose Altuve are over 35. Look at the injury risk of third baseman Carlos Correa at age 30. So they're going to have injuries. Now, I didn't think the youngest of the group, Jeremy Pena, would be the first one to get injured, but that's exactly what happened. But look, the Astros have the depth. So even if he's not ready opening day, the Astros are going to be just fine in the infield.
That's baseball. Injuries happen. But luckily for the Astros, like you said, they got the depth. They got the players that can play multiple positions. So they're going to be okay. All right. You were down at the Yankees National Spring Training game this past Saturday. What stood out to you?
George Lombard Jr. Made two incredible plays at shortstop. I was watching him at the plate, hit the ball extremely hard. I love his approach. I love his balance at the plate. I think he's one of the best prospects in baseball, and I think he's the best position player prospect in the Yankees organization. What's been amazing is whether he's playing second, short, or third, it looks like he's been there his whole career. He plays all three positions as if it's his own position. So great instincts, great first step quickness, great range to both sides, strong arm. He really stood out. Spencer Jones, the power and speed are real. I don't know how much he's going to hit. We got to keep watching him. I don't think he's major league ready, but obviously great to see his tools. And in my conversations with GM Brian Cashman and manager Aaron Boone, they are just raving about Lagrange, their young right-handed pitching prospect who consistently is throwing 102 miles an hour. This is a guy that probably the floor is being a closer and the ceiling is a number 2 or 3 type starter. I mean, this is a special prospect. So this organization's farm system completely loaded right now, without a doubt, and been really fun to watch. Now, I know you've had a couple of outfielders you've been keeping your eye on over the last 10 days or so. Give me your take on what you've seen from Tigers outfielder Max Clark and Rockies outfielder Zach Veen.
Well, I'll start with Zach Veen. I mean, the first thing that you notice is that dude added 40 pounds of muscle this offseason. And, he's in 14 at bats. He's hitting like 285, which is a big improvement from last spring training. I know he struggled last year at the major league level, but man, he's putting it together. He's had 2 home runs, and one of those was just a massive, massive, massive walk-off home run. And, baseball's a mental game, right? He said he's finally sober, from different substances he was using. But, he finally has a clear head. And that is so important to have as a hitter. It makes me think that, maybe last year he might not have been taking this as seriously as he could be. And now he's all in. And it's showing early in spring training. I hope to see him at the major league level for majority of this season. I really hope they give him a chance. But yeah, I mean, I've been impressed by him. So have you been impressed by Zach?
I got to ask you about Max Clark too, because he reminds me of you when you were playing college baseball, right? He's got the change, he's got the swag, like he's got all that going on. And I'm just curious because, he misplayed some balls in the outfield in Tigers camp, and the fans started getting on because of the chains and the jewelry and stuff. And as a former GM, I just don't understand it. I really don't care. I think everyone should be able to express themselves any way they want to. But for some reason, this guy, for whatever reason, some fans just get on him. I just wanted to get your take on that aspect of it, and also the player, his talent level.
Look, it's baseball. You're going to fail. The talent level is still there. Look, he's had a rough spring training, but something that has really stood out to me is how he has responded to these critics. You take a look at the graphic here. These are some of the quotes that he's had. One that stood out to me was, "People don't know me. There's a lot of people out there that will do anything for monetary clicks. My mom was a special ed teacher. My dad drove semis. I grew up loving God and serving him." The way he's handling his failures right now with just straight up grace and just acknowledgement, that shows a lot about the player. And yeah, look, baseball's a game of failure. You're going to fail. I'm not worried about Max Clark. I mean, he's still a kid. He has so much time left. So I think all these critics jumping on him right away is kind of unfair. But that's the day and age we live in. So Max Clark, I have high praise for him. I think he's going to be a special player one day. So don't jump the gun and call him a failure right away. He's got a lot to prove, and he's going to.
The #1 rated ticketing app is SeatGeek, and you can get 10% off on SeatGeek's app by using the code Territory10. So you should use it, AJ.
Oh, I'm definitely going to use it for WBC games in
Yes.
Miami because I want to go to the semifinals and the finals.
They're going to be sold out.
Absolutely.
Go to
Spring
SeatGeek.
training games for the people out there who want to go to spring training games. Absolutely great idea. Best seats rated 1 through 10. And I recently had to use SeatGeek to buy tickets to a Florida Gators basketball game that was sold out. So I love the code territory 10% off, and the rating is the best.
Yeah, he's talking about each ticket rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. And of course, we have a code for you. Like I mentioned, it's Territory 10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code TERRITORY10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you to SeatGeek.
All right, before we get to our offseason grades and the NL Central, you're a big Buffalo Bills fan. Bills made a big trade this week. This is GM territory. GM territory includes trades in other sports. So let's get down, roll up your sleeves. You got to show me your tats, and you got to let me know right now what your take is on the DJ Moore trade. Did the Bills give up too much to get him, and what are your expectations of DJ?
We didn't give up too much to get him, but, obviously that's a pretty big contract. So that's why you saw corresponding moves. We said goodbye to Taron Johnson, who's been with us the last 8 years, who's been an incredible player for us. Said bye to Dane Jackson, said bye to Curtis Samuel, who was a nice pickup the last 2 years. And, we're dumping this money so we can handle a contract for DJ Moore. But we just got Josh Allen a weapon. And another thing I love about DJ Moore is he is no stranger to Joe Brady. He played with Joe Brady when he was with the Panthers. So, look, DJ Moore coming into this offense, it makes a lot of sense schematically. I still think the Bills need a vertical threat. I still think we're missing speed. Shakir's an amazing receiver. DJ's an amazing receiver. You still have Dalton Kincaid, but we're just missing that over-the-top deep threat. Let Josh throw it 60 yards down the field, and let me see someone in the end zone catch the ball. So, overall, pretty happy. We gave up a second-round pick, which is tough, but we got a fifth-round pick in return in DJ Moore. So, overall, it was a good week to be a Bills fan. All right, now, Jim, I know you're a big Dallas Cowboys fan. Maxx Crosby just went to the Ravens, only for 2 first-round picks. How are you feeling about this?
Gee, thanks a lot for bringing that up. I set you up for a trade you made, and now you're getting to my Cowboys and giving me a hard time on the trade we didn't make? Look, I think the price was too high to give up the 12th pick in the first round and 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby. I think the Cowboys have too many needs on defense. So if they can sign an edge rusher like Trey Hendrickson in free agency and keep the 2 first picks, I think that's probably a better play. But I will say this. I would have traded pick number 20 in the first round of this year, and I would have traded first-round pick next year if I could have landed Maxx Crosby and kept pick number 12. But my understanding is that wasn't an option. So I'm okay with the Cowboys walking away as long as they now spend some money in free agency and use those 2 picks in the first round for defense.
Time to go through the NL Central. We're going to start in Chicago. Jim, what was your offseason grade for the Cubs?
I gave the Chicago Cubs a straight A. You have to. They were able to sign Alex Bregman to play third base. Alex Bregman gives them a team leader, a complete player at third base, gives them a huge bat for Wrigley Field. But boy, that makeup and character is so ridiculous. And then their trade for Edward Cabrera to get another starter for the top of their rotation to go with Cade Horton and Matthew Bourne and Jamison Tyone. I love the pickup for Cabrera. And they had to rebuild the bullpen. Did a great job getting Maton and Harvey and Milner and Thielbar. So I gave him a straight A.
Let's head down to Cincy. What'd you give him?
Queen City, I gave the Reds a B. Nick Krall, the president, did a great job. He waited out in free agency and got the 40 home run bat of Eugenio Suarez. I think that'll be a big addition to the lineup. They were able to bring back Pagan as well in the back end to close. I like the trade for Brock Burke as well to get more pitching. Not sure I like the outfield depth add there with J.J. Bleday, but all in all, solid B for getting that big power bat they needed in Suarez.
I agree. I was pretty pumped about Suarez after they missed out on Kyle Schwarber. And then, re-signing Pagan is pretty massive. He actually opted out of the World Baseball Classic because he's so focused on this season with the Reds. All right, let's now head over to Milwaukee. What'd you give the Brewers?
Gave him B+ because they did what they had to do. Look, they didn't want to have to trade Freddy Peralta, but they knew they were not going to be able to extend him on the type of $200 million contract it's going to take to to get him in free agency. So they traded him for 2 good prospects with the Mets. I like Sproat. He's a guy that will be a mid-rotation type of starter for years to come for them. Jet Williams can play infield, outfield, versatile, another one of their top prospects. So I thought they got a good return for Peralta, 2 guys that really are major league ready. And then I like the trade, what they made with Boston, getting a good arm in Kyle Harrison, who they hope they can harness his command and control. They've had success with those kind of guys. Added some speed with David Hamilton, which is always their blueprint. They're very athletic. I gave him a B+.
All right. What about the Pirates here in the Berg? What'd you give the Pirates?
I gave Yins an A-. That's right. Primanti Brothers sandwiches with all that coleslaw and French fries. Not sure I love the sandwich, but I do love their offseason. They pick up Brandon Lau, the second baseman from the Rays, 30 home run bat. They pick up Ryan O'Hearn. He hit 17 last year as a member of the San Diego Padres. And if that wasn't enough, they got a third veteran bat in Marcell Ozuna. So I think Lau, O'Hearn, and Ozuna will finally give Paul Skeens, the NL Cy Young Award winner, finally give him some run support, something he has not had since he's been in Pittsburgh. A-, baby.
It's an exciting time to be a Pirates fan. That lineup is a lot better than it was last year. Just hopefully the pitching can match. All right, let's head down to St. Louis, our final team, the NL Central. What do we give them?
I gave them a B. They did what they had to do. They cleared up the veterans, traded Nolan Arenado to Arizona, traded Sonny Gray to the Boston Red Sox, traded Brendan Donovan to the Seattle Mariners. And they opened up a pathway for their young players led by second baseman J.J. Weatherholt, who will be a Rookie of the Year candidate in the National League. And they loaded up with prospects. They also signed a couple of veteran pitchers, Dustin May, who's had a really good spring, by the way. He's up to 97. He brought his curveball back. He looks really good. They got Ryan Stanek to pitch out of the bullpen. So they loaded up with prospects. They cleared the veterans out of the way that were blocking the prospects. And this will be a developmental year for the St. Louis Cardinals. And they're going to find out. They're going to send a lineup out there that's completely homegrown. The entire lineup. We'll just see how good they are. We'll find out by October.
All right, so that has us with the Cubs finishing in first, the Brewers in second, Reds in third, the Pirates in fourth, and the Cardinals in fifth. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please, before you go, hit that subscribe button and the like, too, if you really want. We greatly appreciate it. That's it from us. Ciao and chillax.
We go.